Right. So, did you know that one of the most significant or important ways of escaping poverty is education? Well, now I believe that when a person is willing to learn, not only do they gain knowledge about the world around them, but it also gives them some knowledge, to get ahead. Okay, so on Hard Talk today, we're discussing education. Are we investing in education as we should as a country? Well, to set the tone for this conversation, we have on the phone line right now Dr. William Ahaji. Okay, Doctor. Okay, well, to set the conversation, let me say that Dr. Mark Esibe-Yeboah, MP for New Jobbing, is actually doing this for us. Kobe Gomez, our producer, has been talking to him. So let's listen to him and then we'll come back and start the conversation.
Look at these secondary schools. It is complete waste of money. I don't know where you went to school, but if you go to any of these schools, there's huge expanse of land. There's huge expanse of land. Now, there's a headmaster there already. There's staff there already. There are people who are ready to teach over there. You are now going to create a new bureaucracy. There's a new day school somewhere. It's a day school, and so it cannot attract students from other areas. It's only those in the community. And these are small communities. Now you need a new headmaster, an administration, a BEZA, and all of this, and new teachers. And teachers are not prepared to go and live in those rural areas. So why don't you expand Achimota School? Why don't you expand Adisco? Why don't you expand National, Ganas? All these schools, you can put more infrastructure. If you are going to do this 3-story, you are doing 24 classrooms. Do you know the number of people you can admit into Presec and to Achimota? And so these are the kinds of things, but you just create work, okay? Jobs for the party men. That's all. So if you cut down all these 123 secondary schools that you are doing, do you know how much you will save? Previously, even Professor Mills said he was going to build 10 new teacher training colleges. Then the principals explained to you, Prof, you are wrong. Okay? You have given us a quota of 9,000 for all the 38 teacher training colleges. We have capacity to take 15,000. We would rather let you increase the quota because we have capacity. Then they realize that, oh, okay, let's give them the capacity to increase the quota to 15,000. Now, guess what? They say, okay, then we are going to take off the allowances because 15,000, we can't pay the allowances. These are the critical issues that are in the system that we have to address rather than say, oh, we are building schools, teacher training, hospitals. Look at Kolebu, the premier hospital in this state. And then you tell me you are going to build a 600 something at Legon. Okay, why don't you fix the infrastructure in the existing ones, upgrade them? Under the MPP, President Kufuor upgraded a secondary school in every district. Every district, they upgraded one, and they are now very beautiful secondary schools wherever you go. This idea of, oh, I built a university, and so what? If you built a university and I will never teach in that university, of what essence it is? Nobody wants to send their kids over there. It is only those who can make it to the premier university, who even apply to the premier ones, who choose to go there.
Okay, so that was the MP for New Jobbing South, Dr. Mark Esibe-Yeboah. Well, on the phone line now is Dr. Ahaji. He is a social policy expert, and we'll be engaging him very soon. Hello, good morning, Doc. Good morning, Dr. Ahaji. Hello?
Hello.
Right. Good morning, Dr. Ahaji.
Good morning.
Thanks for your time this morning. So we're looking at education in its entirety and as to how we're investing in education as a country. Let me first of all pick your thoughts, your general impression of the state of education in Ghana today.
The line is not clear.
Okay. Doc, let me come again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. So I wish to pick your thoughts on the state of education in Ghana today.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Doc. So we're looking at investing Okay, investing in education. And I wish to find out from you what you make of our level of investment into education as a country today.
Yes, I mean, the current levels are good, but there's a lot more to be done because education stretches across different levels and across different sectors, and therefore the scale of investment that is required is quite extensive. But I wish to add that there's considerable investment in the provision of in the expansion of infrastructure within the sector across all levels.
So, in a nutshell, are we saying that the fact that we have infrastructure expanding, quite some investment going on in the sector, it's paying off?
Well, to a large extent, it's paying off. One of the biggest problems we have had is access in terms of physical infrastructure. So once you put up schools, additional classrooms, and you provide some furniture and all those things, you are expanding access because we are aiming at virtually universal enrollment, or particularly at the basic education level. It is a requirement that we have to do. Everyone has this right, so everyone has to go through the educational system until you ensure that those rights are settled by those for whom it is intended. You haven't finished the job. So yes, enrollment is expanding on the back of the investment in public infrastructure, educational infrastructure.
Dr. Haji, this is Kafui. Good morning, and thanks for coming on the line. Now,
Yes.
Last year's expenditure on education was a little over 7 million CDs,
Yes.
7 billion CDs, and this year we're looking at 6.9 billion. So this is a reduction of about 100 million.
Yes.
What does that say to you about the quantum of money we are injecting into investing in education?
Yes, that's not an indication of loss of interest or a reduction in the provision of some services and input to education. Some of the investment are actually one-off. Let me put it that way, that if you have to put up a school and you are done with it, you don't have to put up that school anymore. And therefore, the expenditure that probably is going to be laid out this particular year will not necessarily go to the provision of the same infrastructure. It may go into the other aspects of educational requirements. For instance, provision of input, provision of expanding access to teacher training and providing support for the different, even accommodation and incentives for children, and also, as you probably know, the social protection services, for instance, those that have to do with exercise books, sandals, and some school inputs.
Doc, let me ask you this. So we know that the book allowances of teachers now have been withdrawn and has been set up now as a research fund and for the teachers. And we know that it's come under a lot of, public outcry, I mean, when it comes to teachers. And most of these teachers are saying that government hasn't been fair to them. What do you say to this?
There was a right. I mean, coming from I'm quite very careful about what I'm saying, but I know that there was some debate, there was some discussion as to converting the direct allowance to a research fund, which then is a pool fund that can be accessed by those who apply and qualify for it, rather than the blanket release of funds for everyone who is teaching in the universities or in the tertiary institutions. It's a policy decision that has been made, and I think the challenge is to make it work so that it will ease the pressure on the public budget, and it will be targeted at those who are actually going to conduct research. But essentially also, it will also probably assist or challenge people to want to apply for it. And the only problem I foresee is that when the adequate amounts are not lodged in the fund, then it becomes problematic. Then we are back to square one. But I think that the idea is usually best practice around the world, that there are different funds that you can access if you want to do research. So I want to assume that yes, all the arrangements and the conditions are so well done that it won't become very frustrating to those who need to do research and will apply for it.
So do you agree with what the government has in place now, considering all you've spoken about?
For the research fund?
Yes.
Well, basically, that's a policy decision taken by government, and therefore there must have been some rationale behind that. And my understanding is that there was extensive consultation before it was established. I think what didn't happen was that I think the phasing in was not at the right time. That because there were outstanding payments for the allowances, it was very difficult to convince anybody that was well intended, because it may appear as though it was just to avoid paying the research allowances. That's why government probably introduced this. But I think that will ease with time when the fund is fully established and it's running.
Right, Dr. Haji, there's been some improvements as far as teacher attendance is concerned. So 2013 to 2014, there was 89% attendance. 2014 to 2015, 90.2%. And it's projected that in this academic year...
May I kindly ask you to say that again?
Okay, so we're focusing on teachers now. And it appears that for attendance levels, they have been improving. So the absenteeism rate is dropping, which is great. But there are also other issues on board. We're looking at, for example, the licensing of teachers. What do you make of this as a social policy analyst?
Yes, in fact, this has been under discussion for a long time. I mean, I recall when we were doing the educational reforms, it came up when we converted the teacher training institutions from pre-tertiary to tertiary institutions, where instead of the middle school, now you needed the secondary school qualifications to enter. And we said that given all the challenges that we're facing, teacher conduct, absenteeism, and all of that, it would have been appropriate to a professional service. So it would be better to license the teacher so that that's your profession, and the licenses can be withdrawn on account of misconduct, on account of poor delivery, poor performance. That in itself is one of the factors that improves quality education, and quality of teaching particularly. And therefore, that's appropriate way to go. The challenge, again, as we always say, is how this policy can be implemented, particularly where you have a large number of untrained teachers within the system still. There are attempts to remove all of them has not worked over the years, because of the teacher supply and other associated with teacher deployment. Teachers are deployed to hard to reach areas and they don't go, and therefore the gap has to be filled by sometimes untrained teachers. Not that they are not educated, but just that they haven't got a professional training. So licensing is good, but it has to be done in a manner that would ensure that virtually everyone would become part of that whole profession. Even there's a program that's been started to train the untrained teachers and make them a lot more professional, teach them pedagogical skills, etc. So those things are useful, and they would help towards ensuring that teachers are licensed.
Doc, as we talk about the quality of teachers now, I want to look at quality control systems in education in its entirety. Now, I don't know if indeed there's some work being done in this direction. I'm saying this.
In which direction?
Okay, so I'm saying this because I'm talking about quality control systems in the whole of the educational structure. We've seen instances where textbooks, for instance, have wrong content, and it's been, students have been using it for a long time without even the teachers noticing. And these are some of the things that I talk about when it comes to making sure that if we're talking quality education, quality teachers, then I think it should affect all facets of education. Do you agree?
In fact, the internal efficiency of educational systems is driven by a number of factors, including the curriculum, the particular textbooks that are used, and indeed the teaching approach and even the teacher. It's also affected by the environment, the school environment, the classroom, the teaching and learning materials that are available. So all of these are part of a package that has to be prepared to ensure that we deliver quality education. And efficiency is just a reflection of how people are able to learn what they are supposed to learn. We call it grade level competence, where they can achieve the expected competence of that particular grade, and then they can move to the next level. Otherwise, you have situations where they will go through that particular grade all right, but they will not have acquired the expected knowledge, and then you just push them through the system. What you are doing is that you are just running them through the educational system, and they become dysfunctional when they leave school, because as we know, some of them can spell, some of them can write straight English, but they've completed JSS, so they didn't acquire the level of competence that they required. So quality control has to do with the provision of the facilities, but also the instructional approach. But part of it is also a responsibility of parents. If you don't create a learning environment at home, where children can also, when they leave school, they can do some work at home, you're probably also creating some difficulty for the child when the child goes to school. So it's a complex of factors, and therefore dealing with them requires a comprehensive approach.
Doc, just before I let you go, let's look at the issue of decentralization of education. We're looking at a situation where that in our various districts, educational heads could take certain decisions without recourse to the, head office in Accra. For instance, if we need, learning materials that we don't have now, to wait for Accra to bring them in before teaching and learning is made possible or easier.
Yes, in fact, I advocate for some level of decentralization. In fact, an extensive level of decentralization. If you recall, these early schools that we had, the local authority schools that we had, in the 60s, they actually had some level of autonomy to procure materials for the school. That's why they are local authority schools. We moved away from that and re-centralized the management of our educational system to the extent that even the provision of basic input became part of the responsibility of the center. Those things must necessarily be shifted back to the districts for them to take full responsibility of that. And that will really, if you look at the education law, the act, it virtually has taken back the authority of the district assemblies in the running of some aspects of the school. Curriculum provision, yes, fine. You want standards, you want quality, so you need to ensure that everybody learns basically what they are supposed to learn. That can be done at the central level. But some decisions that involve immediate response to needs of the institutions at the district level ought to be transferred to the institutions. Not that you wait for chalk to be brought to you, you wait for exercise books to be brought to you. The district assemblies must be empowered to take up that responsibility. And indeed, it's on account of that now the education directorate in the district, in fact, under the local government service program now, some of those autonomous standalone institutions are now departments of the local government system, of the district assembly, which means that then they become part of the financial arrangement of the district assembly, which then gives them some level of autonomy. But is it working the way it ought to? We will need to investigate that.
Right. Dr. Haji, you have the power to make these proposals, make them known to those who can act on them. Have you done that?
Well, yes, why you say I have the power? Of course, these are decisions that are being made. So, yes, we are working on ensuring that it's a gradual process. You probably would have noticed that a number of things have been done in the educational sector, and a lot more will be done. These issues that we are raising now are part of government policy, and therefore, yes, they are being attended to. The fact that we are even providing some of those services is an indication that we are desirous of improving the quality of education over time.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. William Ahaji. He's a social policy expert. You're watching GH Today on GH1 TV. Your comments on hashtag GH Today to all our social media handles. We're looking at investing in education for national development. You heard earlier from Dr. Mark Asibeyebua, MP for New Jabin South.
Yes.
And then just gone by was Dr. William Ahaji, who is a social policy analyst. We have our guests in the studio. Bismarck Ayite is from the NDC communication team, and Eric Amwakuchum is from the MPP's communication team. Gentlemen, happy post-Valentine's Day to you.
Same to you. Good morning.
Good morning, you're
Look
welcome.
surprised.
Nobody's wearing red, so.
I know.
Yeah. Straight to the conversation. I'm going to start first off with you, Mr. Ayite. So, in the clip that we aired earlier, Dr. Asibeyebua was talking about how we need to invest in existing educational infrastructure.
Exactly, expand them.
Yes, maintain what you already have instead of now adding to the burden. That's a fair point, isn't it?
It's not. That is the way he looked at it. But on the surface or the realities, it doesn't go that way.
What are the realities?
The realities are that currently, apart from the 200 day schools that the president has promised this country, which is ongoing, there is secondary school improvement program. About $156 million has been targeted for that project. And what that project seeks to do is to identify secondary schools that are below standard. Then investment goes into it.
Where's the money coming from, sir?
This money is coming from the African Development Bank.
Is it a loan?
It's a sort, but at a very... educational loans are not competitive as the other commercial loans, because there are certain sectors, dedicated funds are there that every government can access when it comes to education, health. Those ones, the rates are little below the other ventures. Notwithstanding...
How much are we paying for? What's the interest we are paying for this loan?
That one, unless the finance ministry will tell me, but I have the information on paper, and the project is ongoing. So currently, apart from these 200, the existing secondary schools have been improved. Dormitories are being built. Dining halls are being built. You understand? And any other facilities that will help the schools to increase their number. That is what we are doing. He mentioned...
Which schools are... Can you validate what you just said? Which schools are having these improvements being done as we speak?
Oh, recently, you remember that the vice president went to this school, this girls' school. Ebri is one of them. You understand? They are...
Is it Wesley Girls?
Wesley Girls, yes.
Okay.
No, there was one. I just want to use the immediate one that you can recall, because these facilities I'm talking about are not within Accra that you can visibly see. But it's real. It's ongoing. You know, in the 90s, NDC government under President Jerry Lawrence had these science resource centers. The secondary school in a particular district, if you have about 5 secondary schools, then they select one school and equip it with science resource center. Then all the other peripheral schools will come and have practical training, practical there. That thing, unfortunately, when MPP came, those science resource centers were all down. Currently, as I'm talking to you now, from this 156 million I'm talking about now, they have started revamping them. Majority of them are working now. So we are not there to collapse existing ones. We are there to improve and add on. That is the policy of President Jerry John.
But the 200 schools we talk about are all supposed to be day schools, right?
The 200, yes.
day schools, and I'm looking at the locations, and as to whether they're serving the purpose for which we're putting them up, because then I'm looking at a situation where if indeed it is in Krabuakota, for instance, and it's a day school. Let's look at the population of the student population in Krabuakota. How many of them do you think would want to go to the school, or how many of them would be attending the school, as compared to a situation where if it was a boarding facility, then there definitely is the possibility of getting people, traveling from all, parts of the country to go in there. I think that is the real situation that we're looking at now.
To be frank with you, the importance of that particular project is not to benefit people in the cities. The Ministry of Education have come to the crossroad, and they've realized that there are certain areas, if the schools are closer to the people, definitely they will avail themselves to those schools.
Mr. Ite, there are schools in the greater Accra region, not Accra. Go to Ga West, Ga South, all those areas that we call rural Accra. Look, there's a schools like areas in these areas of greater Accra region, which you will not find facilities like what you talk about there. So if you say that indeed it is not for the cities,
you see,
what are we
when the
talking
president
about?
came out with this idea, it's not the government policy that the schools will be built here. Ministry of Education came into the scene. So all these things are all coherent measures that were put in place. Okay. Now, the about 5 or 3 schools that has been commissioned. As I'm talking to you now, not less than 1,000 students are in those schools. That should tell you that it's not about where the school is situated, it's about the need of the people. Their needs are very high that they need even secondary school to change their lives. These people are not people who are, let me say, outskirts, people who cannot do anything on their own. It's because they don't have access. They are talking about Abri girls, talking about the other schools. How many girls from my village will be able to access that school?
So what you're saying is that the investment is improving access to education for people.
At the lower level where these facilities are not available.
Let me bring in
So
Eric.
the ordinary is the question. We are Social Democrat Party, and we look at the ordinary person, how to enhance the status of the ordinary person. We are saying that let us bring secondary school to their doorsteps. So that instead of taking car, instead of boarding that the parents will say they cannot afford,
you just walk.
They walk in. And these schools are free. As time goes on, progressively free, they will become free.
These are good points, Bismarck. I want to bring in the smiling Eric Amwakuchum, who is from the MPP communication team. These are valid. You can't possibly see anything wrong with what Bismarck is saying. According to the finance minister, progressively free secondary education funding has been provided for the first term for 320,488 day schools. All the fees are paid. Just go to school. Free lunch, also 1 meal a day for all these. How can you argue with this?
Well,
against this.
To start with, I'll say good morning to yourselves and then to all the viewers and then my friend. Yeah, I'm smiling because you could sort of tell that all of these policies are actually not well thought through. And for for Dr. Esibe-Yeboah to make the point that probably we should focus on investing in existing infrastructure. Just about a couple of days ago, I was actually watching something on, I think, one of the TV channels, and it was to do with a school somewhere in the Volta region where the kids didn't even have furniture to actually sit on. They only had one trained teacher, and the rest of the teachers there were people who were actually volunteering. They were SS graduates who come from the community and now are volunteering to teach these kids. And even if you listen to the interview that was actually granted, and these teachers, even the trained teacher, and the sort of English and dictionary is actually coming from this teacher, you'd say that these kids absolutely have no chance in this life. You understand? So that's a sort of common sense approach that Dr. Esibe-Yeboah, and I'm sure most people would actually suggest that. Fair enough. You can expand the infrastructure for all you want, but what happens to the existing infrastructure that we have today? Now, we have a situation whereby students are even being driven out of their dormitories because of bed bags. Common bed bags in the 21st century are actually driving students out of their dormitories. So if any government, if it wasn't based, I was smiling because he actually went to the fact that they were a social democratic party. And of course, that is probably the reason why they always try to pander to the populist aspect of politics. Let me tell you something.
Are you saying that the
president's initiative
require the
listen,
non
they do,
education?
but there's existing infrastructure that needs to be maintained. Of course, every now and then, if you find that there's an increase in population in a certain part of the country and it requires that an infrastructure should be put there, do so. But as I said here, I don't really see the point where president comes out and says that, oh, we're going to set up 200 day schools, right? And as we speak, we have about 5 of them commissioned. The president promised that at the beginning of his term. As we speak, ask him exactly how many of these schools have actually been put up. Then you come to the issue of even the investment in that particular sector, whereby an institution like MTN can build a 6-classroom block for 210,000, and the government builds the same 6-classroom block for 510,000 cedis. That is the sort of things that we are actually talking about.
They definitely are getting building materials from different places, so you can...
No, of course. I mean, that's the most ridiculous explanation I got from one of the deputy ministers of education. I mean, trying to actually justify some of these things. But my point really is simple. What is the investment actually translating into? Are we churning out better graduates, right? Are we bringing out people who are actually prepared to go into the job market? The first time in the history of this country, we've actually gone to a point where we have unemployed graduate associations. By virtue of the fact that even the sort of quality that we are actually churning from the education center is questionable. Of course, every now and then you get a few bright ones who will come through the system. But what sort of education are we giving out to them? What's the curriculum? To the point where you go to places where even simple things like chalk are a problem. You have issues where every single term when the kids are meant to go to school, right, the heads of CHAS will come out and say that if the government doesn't pay feeding grants, if the government doesn't do that, we are not opening the schools. Now, as we speak, I'm sure we're going to come to that, where NAT and TEU and NAGRAT and everybody are actually threatening to go on strike in the next 2 weeks if government does not make due its promise of paying arrears that has accrued since 2013. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, the teachers who are supposed to be the major stakeholders in the education sector are even unhappy with the way government has treated them. Right? You can build all the schools you want, but if the people that are supposed to go into those facilities to teach are unhappy and are even threatening to go on strike, then maybe those investments are misplaced.
But there are good things happening. I mean, teacher attendance is improving, and there's training that is being offered. There's plans to license teachers to regulate the quality. There's plans, and these are the finance minister's words, to regulate the privatization of education in Ghana. Are these not good things that one can smile at, Eric? Well, it can't be all gloom and doom, can it?
No, my point is very simple. I mean, like any form of investment, right, you're supposed to sort of realize some sort of return at the end of it, right? And my point is that with all the monies that has actually gone into education, is it something that has sort of translated into the quality of students that we churn out? Has it helped industry? Why is it that even as a country, there are certain basic things that we cannot do for ourselves? We have issues with roads, we have issues with electricity, we have issues with agriculture, for instance. Why are we not churning out people who would actually translate change our raw materials into finished products?
But you know,
all
to
of
be
this
fair,
thing,
you know that it's not like buying tomatoes to make soup in 2 hours. These are investments that take a long time.
I appreciate. But Eric, my point is very simple, that we need to move our way. I didn't come here this morning to do the normal NDC MPP politics. But once they go there, even when he was speaking, he made allusions to the fact that when President Kufuor was in government, the so-called science resource centers collapsed. That is not true. That's not true. I can go there and list all the projects that the President Kufuor did under his tenure. You're talking about dormitory blocks. You're talking about providing buses to more than 220 second cycle institutions. We're talking about expansion of our universities. In 2000, if you go to University of Ghana, you go to UPSA, you go to Tech, you go to UMAT, you go to the new Ghana Telecom University, you could go there prior to the year 2000 and after 2008, and you can ask the chancellors and the lecturers and the teachers over there the sort of improvements that the NPP did. We was talking about expansion of primary education by introducing the capitation grant. We're talking about introducing school feeding program. We'd actually increase the intake of kids by more than 50%. You understand? So these are some of the clear-cut policies we're talking about. It's not just putting out a structure. No.
Eric, I think you make a number of very interesting submissions that I would like to pick up on. So let me first deal with the issue of costs, for instance, where you compare, the putting up of some of these structures by government to other private entities. And Mr. Ite, let me come to you with this one. So should we not be revisiting contracts, contracts with contractors, who usually engage in, these, facilities, so that then we want to be sure that the monies get to them, in due time to be able to facilitate whatever the project is. You don't think that could be the added on bits that usually gets the projects to costs to rise up?
I don't think so. And you see, the point we are making here is that
I wish that you would answer this question for me.
You see, this question you are asking now has so many implications before you get to the bottom of it.
Right.
I don't believe, because most of these projects that is currently ongoing, they are loans that we have taken from organizations like World Bank, African Development Bank. And there are conditions attached. And release of those monies also depend on certain conditions from the contractor point of view, certificates being raised, confirmed, the money are raised. There are some projects that is currently running from our own internally generated funds, our taxes that we collect. Those projects, because of the challenges we have with our internally generated funds, which we all know that most of these monies are going into emolument and other things. Sometimes those projects delay. There's no, nobody can say that it's not, it's true. But these are things that you cannot assign to only President John Mahama.
No, I'm just saying, because we hear in the news every time about contractors that are not paid, for the projects that they work on. And I'm looking at the situation where that, if that is the case, if I work on the project to a point where the money that I'm expecting to, kind of use to facilitate the project is not coming in, definitely will lay down tools. And look, today, day in, day out, price increases in almost everything. So I might have presented the budgets, but then at the time the money gets to me, prices have gone up. And so it definitely affects the budgets. And that's the angle that I'm looking at this from.
It's true, but in every contract, they have contingencies. That when something happened, that goes beyond the normal when the contract has been negotiated.
The point that 100% you could
cannot be
shoot up to 100%.
It cannot. You see, let me tell you, these things ongoing, somebody's strategy is to downplay any good thing happening in this country.
No,
let me tell you what we are doing.
The bigger picture.
No, the bigger picture, per what Dr. Sibe was saying, he knows very well that when it comes to policy decision, it has nothing to do with common sense. If we should use common sense in this country to discuss policy decision, you and I will not benefit from anything. There are policy that need to be followed. So when you come to government, the policies are that increase infrastructure, this is ongoing. When the government came, there were some projects that were being done through internally generated funds. You talk about the Medina roads and other roads. When we came, this government make sure that these projects are ongoing. So definitely these problems are there, but there are projects that are there that a fund has been dedicated to that project. You will not have any cause to complain that that project will delay or not. It will go on. Okay? The problem we have in this country now is that we have gone ahead to take loans to undertake projects for the development of this country. When these things were ongoing, other part of MPP specific or the opposition party are saying nothing is going on. So when the president came out with the things that he's doing, they say, no, the prices are this. But you see, depending upon the contract and what it entails, somebody will build 6 classroom blocks without probably the headmaster or the headmistress bungalow, without sitting room for the teachers, without even ICT center. So such things you cannot compare.
So we shouldn't compare guava to pineapple?
You cannot.
That's what you're saying.
Because when you go to the MTN school you are talking about, it may be a block sitting down. No. But this is the case where, that is why when you are comparing, you don't compare costs. You compare the facilities involved. Okay? The ICT center, the master's bungalow, the teacher's bungalow, and all those. So the bungalows that we are talking about enhance the welfare.
So the 200 schools we're talking about come with teachers' bungalows.
It comes.
You're talking about day schools.
These are day schools. But I'm talking about other facilities he's mentioning. This day, if we are mentioning this government, when we are doing a project, we just don't do the projects like this. All the auxiliary service that will help to enhance that project, we add it. That is why MPP will come and tell you that, oh, Kaswa Road we are doing is this, it's not this. But the other services attached to that particular project, we are looking at holistic development for the area that we are putting the project there.
Now that you talk about the holistic approach, and Kaf, let me take this so you can go on. I'm curious though. So what are the measures, being taken by government now to kind of whip up enthusiasm, at these, areas where we are putting up these schools to get the children to actually want to be in school, to study? Yes, I know that we have school feeding, free uniforms, free sandals and all of that. But let's not forget that when it comes to free feeding, for instance, most of these children come to school just during lunchtime. So they can have lunch and go. So we might be putting up these structures and, it will just be gathering dust. Have we thought about that?
That is an internal issue that the schools have to deal with. If you know Mr. A is not in class from 8 o'clock and lunchtime he arrives to eat, what are you doing as a head of the school? What measures are you putting in place? That one, the president or the government cannot control it. You understand? The control should come from the school management team or the PTA. They should ensure that the student come there to sit and learn and eat and go home.
In communities where even the parents do not see that as a priority.
That is where the education is still ongoing. Parents are being conscientized that education is the way forward. So make sure your child is in school. There is a facility there. When the parents see those facilities, nice facilities, the enthusiasm is very high. And they encourage their children to be there. So we as people, headmasters, teachers in that community, they should be talking to the families, the parents, that why this facility is there for you to enhance your children's life and your future as a mother or as a father. So the whole thing doesn't depend on the government alone. It depends on our society, NGOs and all the social.
And now you will have just hit me in an area where that I'm very much interested in. If indeed that you were in power today, what would you do different from what Bismarck has just enumerated?
I think that it's very clear. I mean, our flag bearer, Ronaldo Danko is still committed to a free, and I'm actually emphasizing on the free SHS. Not the kind of free SHS that the NDC is actually
How different will that be from...
the free... No, listen, let me tell you, let me give you a breakdown. The average fees being paid by a day student as we speak today, per what was released by the GES the last time, is 400 cedis. Now, the NDC's version of free education is actually 38 cedis a term, which actually comes up to 114 cedis in a year. Now, the average student, day school student, will pay 1,200 cedis in a year. And then the NDC's version of free education is actually 114 cedis. Does that amount to free education? Every government since Kwame Nkrumah has subsidized education up to a point. Now, I would call that some sort of subsidy. I would not call that progressively free education. In any case, President John Mahama does not believe in giving free education to Ghanaians because he stated that categorically that was impossible, it wasn't a priority. He poo-pooed the MPP's flagship policy of offering free education to SHS students. And Donaldo actually went further than the free education for day schools and actually said that we are actually going to make it free for students in boarding schools as well. That is the policy on second cycle institutions. Now, we are going to also reintroduce the allowances that are paid to trainee teachers and nurses. That is the MPP policy.
Let's jump into Parliament. We'll come back. Let's jump into Parliament. Let's speak with Yao Owusu Boateng. He's the Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee of Parliament. Honourable, good morning and welcome to GH Today.
Good morning, Kavi. How are you?
I am very well, sir. It's a pleasure to speak to you. We are talking about investing in education for national development. And we want to know what your committee has been thinking about the information that is brought to you with regards to investing in education, especially from the Finance Minister.
Well, investment in education, well, by the way, my greetings to all your viewers or listeners.
Thank you.
I mean, investment in education is something which is very important and never ceases. All over the world, people put in a lot of money, at times up 40, even 50% of the cost domestic product into education alone. I mean, that shows how important, and Ghana is no exception. Even the United Nations recommends, UNESCO recommends that it is ideal to put 6% of your gross domestic product into education, and Ghana has been doing that for a long period of time, which is a very good thing. But the committee as a whole does not have a stance. You know, we oversight the Ministry of Education, but we are not in charge of policy. The policy is done at the ministry level, and then Ghana Education Service implements it. National Council for Tertiary Education, that for tertiary institutions. But we just provide and make sure that things are moving in the right direction.
There seems to be this back and forth about, okay, well, you get, so invest in education, invest in current facilities, and forget about adding on. What should be the priority, really, in terms of where to invest in education?
Well, if you want to ask me my own personal opinion, then it's different. It doesn't represent my political party, the MPP, nor does it represent the committee's view. I think there are a lot of things to be done in Ghana education. For example, our vocational institutions are under-resourced, technical and especially polytechnics are also not well-tuned. And I don't understand why we are doing so many things, especially putting huge investment in that 200 secondary school in typical rural areas where people are not going to attend. I find it fascinating, apart from the fact that the ruling government wants votes from the rural people who seem to be fascinated about the beautiful buildings that are there. I doubt whether any of the ministers of education or any member of parliament who want the son or child to go to Otiam Day Secondary School or Biamian or Day Secondary School or any of the day secondary schools that are being established at huge cost. Instead of expanding the secondary schools and even putting emphasis to correct the problem in the public school where people go for 9 years and they cannot read and write. I mean, we are wasting the money. We are really wasting the money on secondary education in rural areas. All those schools that were expanded during President Kufuor's time, if you like, go and check. They are all oversubscribed. But I doubt I doubt that you yourself will want your son to go to Jamianko Day Secondary School or
Maybe if I were living there, yes, but I don't live there. For those who live there, is it not a good thing for them? Is it not a boon for those who live there?
Because they also want their children to come to Atmota. They want their children to go to Yasantua Girls Secondary School. They want their children to go to university. And that is a place we have to expand rather than putting them there. It beautifies the area, maybe it may open up the area, but I'm telling you, in 3 years' time, look at the number of people who those schools can produce to continue their education. Even the existing one, English language and mathematics alone, fail over 50%. And which teachers are going to live in Birmingham for anyway? When they don't have accommodation facilities, how would they be transported from their villages to those schools when they don't have boarding passes or they don't have a vehicle to convey them? I mean, there are no pipe on water, no electricity in those places. I mean, the thinking that went into it is a little bit, to say the least, insane.
So, as far as you're concerned, Honorable, this is nothing more than a vote-buying scheme?
That is what I think. Because if you are Bamianko or Utrecht, you will just be fascinated by the beautiful schools that have been put up there.
But are you not patronizing? Are you not patronizing the people of those areas when you say they will be fascinated by new schools? Don't you think parents think that education is important for their children?
I didn't get you, please.
When you say that the people in these rural areas will be fascinated by new buildings, are you not patronizing them?
Well, it's a way of telling the truth. I'm just telling the truth that the buildings are beautiful. If I say the buildings are not beautiful, but you invest in education so that you get quality as the outcome. And the quality depends on the molding and the pass rate of the children. And in this country, only about 8 schools to 10 schools produce 70% of undergraduates. So if you put a school at Utrecht or you put it at Jamianko, you are certainly not helping them. Instead of expanding at Water School, getting a lot of them coming there and passing, because a lot of people will be in Accra, wouldn't mind, teachers wouldn't mind staying, maybe hiring their own accommodation, and even going to Water School, that or Jamianko, or for that matter, the one in the Eastern region, which I've just forgotten the name.
All right. Well, we wanna hear what the people in the streets told us about investing in education. So just hold on the line. Honorable Yao Usu Boateng is the deputy ranking member on the education committee, and then we'll get your final wrapping up comments before we let you go.
Okay, I'll be holding on to that.
Thank you. So we hit the streets. This is what the people said about investment in education.
To me, like, the government is not investing all that much. Because if you compare like private schools to government schools, the private schools are doing much better than the government schools.
I can say the government is doing well in education sector, because normally when the education sector they go on strike, the government takes in no time, the government resolve the issue.
I think the government is doing well in education because it's building more schools and more libraries.
The government is doing all that he can to help education in Ghana, but I think he has to improve more, because every day you see teachers going on strike on our streets. The kids are our leaders in the future. So what I would like the government to do is to improve more, pay salaries to the teachers so that they also get good hearts, to teach our kids so that we can get a better nation.
It is pure business. Look at the ridiculous fees that the people are paying. But are they getting value for the investment that the parents are making? No. You go to a private school, they charge so much, and the children are not performing. They are pretending that the children are performing. They try to speak good, some English, big English, to show that, the children are learning. But no.
I'm sure you listen to the various views, Honorable Usu Boateng.
I'm hearing you well. but I didn't hear any of the comments.
Yeah. So it was a mixed picture. Some feel the government is doing well. Some think no, they are worried about the quality of private education vis-a-vis public education. So the views are mixed. Before I let you go, I'm just interested in finding out, for your committee, the education committee, what can we look forward to in your deliberations this week and in the coming weeks?
Well, we want to go around. So far as I know, we want to visit some of the schools and see what is happening and make recommendations. We can only recommend to government, but we cannot force them to do whatever that. After all, we play only a supervisory role. That's all. So there's not much. It depends on what the government in power will want to do. I mean, that's it. And me, in my comment, I said we have to spend much more money, which is even lower, in correcting the problem at our basic education, where a lot of people cannot read and write. What we can do, certainly, is very simple. You put up a 3-classroom block, one as office, one for what we call it, a KG1, KG2, and then you find special furniture, which are small furniture for the small kids, and bring a policy, a policy that every child who gets to class 1 should be able to read and write. By that, before doing that, you can also train or retrain the kindergarten school teachers, and then make sure that the children can read and write. Once children can read and write, that is the end of that problem that we have. I think the next generation of government, or the incoming government, or the current government, if they are going to continue in power, whoever is in power, to address that situation. Other than that, you realize that the quality of our education, once the basic one is lost, then everything is lost.
We thank you very much, Deputy Ranking Member in the Education Committee in Parliament, Yao Owusu Boateng. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Kaf, and on this note, I believe that we all deserve some, refreshments.
Yes.
Kind of. You dig?
Yes, with a hat and hot talk.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, no other than Coca-Cola Chill Up, and that is the 0.5 liters. Now they have all the way up to 2 liters. In fact, so that is Chill Up for you right there. At every point that you get, you definitely want to kind of stop and feel refreshed. And that is where Coca-Cola comes in. And you know what they say at Coca-Cola. What is it, happiness?
Open happiness.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So let's come back to our conversation. And let me come straight to you. So I know you heard Honorable Owusu Boateng. First of all, your impressions. In fact, what he said, I think in a nutshell, kind of resonates with what I heard with Dr. Asibeyeboah, with what Eric has been saying throughout this conversation.
Yes,
your impressions.
That is the mentality that they try to push. And they are doing that well. But the fact is that the realities are what people are seeing and the improvement that is coming in their lives. The capitalist mentality of developing this country has to stop. Why do you expect only Achimota, Agri Memorial to be enhanced?
He says you are bamboozling the rural folk with new buildings.
No, that is because they have seen the thing and it is baffling their mind.
Don't you want votes? Isn't it a vote getter?
How they are going to convince those people to vote for them is their problem now. So they have to use every way that they can confuse the people that the facilities is not going to benefit them. But we believe that development of this country has gone beyond Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi. The rural areas are developing. So we need to stretch the infrastructure to their level so that they will not find it difficult accessing the same facilities that are available in Accra, Kumasi, or elsewhere. You understand?
Bismarck, just before you go on, I mean, not too long ago, we heard Second Lady Matilda Emisatha slamming some headmistress because she had asked for chalk when apparently she had gone there to donate some computers. Yeah. Look, when it comes to learning materials, and you and I know that it is a problem when you go into our educational facilities, especially the government, facilities. Is it not to say that we are misplacing our priorities?
No. As we are developing, these are petty issues that will come up. That does not mean that we should not be focused and do what is expected of us as people. Let me go into the investment that President Mahama and our ex-president Moss has done so far in education, that will help solve the problem and the reason why we are here
please.
In a summary. You know, when you... please. When you go into education, infrastructure has increased 26%, notwithstanding the 200 secondary schools I'm talking about.
But you don't have
which how many have been launched so far?
The secondary school,
5 or 6?
123 are at various stages. Work is ongoing.
Different
15
stages.
has been done, completed, awaiting commissioning. 3 so far has been commissioned. Okay.
Why can't we finish one and then move on to the other?
No. It will delay the process.
Okay.
Contractors are working at various levels. I think is good. We cannot hand the same project to only one contractor. If the promoter mess up, we will be in a very big problem.
So infrastructure development is happening.
Yes.
Yes,
apart from the secondary school level, the secondary school improvement level, trying to enhance the standard of the existing secondary schools. You know, it is this government who has increased our universities by 2. School of Allied Sciences, Energy and Natural Resources, and currently Eastern Region is going to get 1, Environment and Sustainable Development.
When?
The Parliament is on the bill. When the bill is passed, the school will start.
Is it just quantity or quality?
It's about, we are growing. We are growing, so you cannot talk about only quality and leave the quantity. Quality and the quantity must go at the same time.
When the already existing ones are...
Yes, there are schools, there are students. There are students in these new universities. If these universities were not around, ask where they will find themselves. Legon is choked. Tech is choked. What are we doing? Those people who are graduating from secondary school, what are we doing to them? There should be a tertiary improvement. And these are the things that we are doing, looking into the future of this country. Here, when we talk about, you know, one thing, vocational education is very important. Yeah. And government has not relented its effort in investing in that area. They know that the technical educations, they are the bedrock of this country. Look at the current project ongoing. Go to Circle. So will you see somebody in Thai? So they are all technicians working.
And your point is that there's investment that is ongoing and you are on course. Now, I want to leave the last word to you, Eric. These are valid points. We need to grow. We need to maintain what we have, but also add to what we have. Aren't those sound arguments?
Well,
and you have
it depends on which trajectory or direction that we actually going towards. Now, for me, I think that, I stated that categorically that all of these things are not well thought through. They are things that are meant to sort of, one, they are always concentrating on what would translate into election and winning elections.
But they are political parties.
I appreciate.
They have to win elections.
I appreciate. But the point really
Don't you want to win an election?
The point is really simple.
Doesn't the NPP want to win?
Of course we are, and we are poised to. But the point is that with all the things that he keeps on talking about, I think that this whole thing about, even President Mahama himself, I think is even overflogged as we speak, stating that every government, and I'll say that, even the much derided Echampo, built the housing facility at Dansuman. Every single government that has come into power in this country has done some form of infrastructure development. You understand? When the NPP came into power, the road network in this country was less than 32,000 kilometers. Proper road network in this country, 32,000 kilometers. At the time when we left power, it was at 70,000 kilometers. We can say all of these things. We can put all of these numbers and all that. But the point really is simple. What is even the NDC's version of free education? And I'll tell you, the free education, as we speak today, amounts to 38 Ghana cedis a term.
Okay.
Right? That is what the President, John Mahama, actually understands as free
Eric,
education.
I would
not free.
It's progressively free.
So for you, it's not free.
Going forward.
Listen,
progressively free.
It is very...
That is the term you need to understand.
We are out of time.
It's progressively free and he thinks it should be free.
It is very...
Without infrastructure, how can it be free? Where would the people go?
It is very simple. As far as I'm concerned, you put infrastructure, fair enough. But the point really is simple. Even the recent Afrobarometer report on education says that 63% of Ghanaians are unhappy with the state of our educational sector. 63%.
Okay.
You understand? And I'm not the one saying it. I mean, in the last few days, we've actually realized that the NDC now actually appreciates the work of civil society organizations. They were busy going around talking about Transparency International. And that's an Afrobarometer report. That indicates that the average Ghanaian on the street is unhappy with the state of education in our system. What number of graduates are we churning out? What has happened to even the quest to make the polytechnics into full-blown technical universities?
So
nothing has come out. Now, all they want to do, right, is to go make a promise somewhere, put a structure somewhere, and say that, oh, we promised you a university and we put that.
Which you think is wrong, but they think otherwise.
Which basically needs more than just an infrastructure. Just to
20 seconds.
Just to basically summarize. That is an example of what has transpired in Kolebu recently, where there's a big, nice, flashy building, and the government does not even have the funds, the wherewithal, to even put consumables in there for people to go there to.
This conversation could go on
I know,
and
because, you know,
but we have to end it.
We were talking about striking teachers, teachers' unwillingness to accept postings into rural communities and all of that. And gentlemen, let me say that I'm sure that we're going to definitely get you back to continue this conversation. Yes. Many thanks for your time once again. So Erica Mwakuchum is with the NPP Communications team, and of course Bismarck Aite with the NDC Communications team.